without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys
Get the win. I don't know, Jack. It's a big decision.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem with saying space.
Pittsburgh at Buffalo.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought I was right. So anyway,
Yeah, Mac, you're really interested in these playoffs.
so
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
well, folks, you'll be getting some satisfaction here on the Mac, Doc, Jack, however you want to say it. Let's bring this down here. Sports show, please bring it down here. Let's try again. There you go. There's all those good-looking guys on the Mac and Jack and Doc Sports Show as we give you another Saturday version of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Welcome in Dr. Paul. He's on a couple shows here on Roku. He's got the Dr. Sem Show. Was just on this morning at 7. He also was on the Start Spreading the News mainly a Yankee show on Monday night at 9 p.m. Jack, of course, joins me almost every day on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. And he also is on Glove Fists with Frank Laterzo, covering all your boxing wants and needs. So welcome to the show, people. We already got people viewing us. I love it when we start off with that. So let's get a few things out of the way before we start our show and analyzing and giving our opinions. The Kentucky Derby, I think it's the 150th. How about that? The producer catches me again. 150th annual Kentucky Derby. We also had a couple other playoff games. Dallas wins, beating the Clippers 114-101. Kyrie Irving with a big game, and the Magic ties the series, winning 103-93. So it's going to Game 7. Exciting series over there, and that's it for the update. Again, Rick Sherlock, right in with us early in the morning. Good morning, Rick. I'm glad you could make it. So let's get to the playoffs, guys. Of course, our Knicks, mine and Doc's, because Jack likes the Brooklyn Nets. I always say that to make sure everybody knows who likes who. The Knicks go ahead and beat the Philadelphia 76ers in a great series, folks. One of the best series I've seen. The total amount of the win by the Knicks over that 6-game series is 1 point. That's the difference. That's how tight that series was. The Villanova connection of Brunson, the scorer, heart, the soul of the team, and Bogdanovic, I think is how you pronounce it, the defender, all played their roles. And the Knicks wins over the 76ers. The Knicks move on to play Indiana, a very young, aggressive, fun team. It's going to be a fast-paced team. The Knicks play fast also. And so me and Jack talked about it. I know you're a huge basketball fan, Dr. Paul, as always. But I'm going to tell you right now, if the next series is as good as the last against Indiana, Jack, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course, it's going to be a lot of fun. But, Mac, you don't usually pause in the beginning when you talk about the Kentucky Derby, this, that, unless we cut in and make a comment, and you get deeply offended when we cut in. The moment passes for us to make a comment. And I just wanted to say the Kentucky Derby, along with the Boston Marathon, are the two of the most honored sporting traditions in the United States. It really is. I mean, you might get bigger marathons than the Boston Marathon, but no marathon is really quite as prestigious, with the possible exception of the Olympic Marathon. And the same with the Kentucky Derby. no matter how big any other horse race is, and no matter how big it's going to be in the future, as long as the Kentucky Derby's around, that's always going to be the race because of how long it's been going on, the honor tradition. The average person on the street, chances are they've heard of the Kentucky Derby. You're not a racing fan. Same thing with people who don't have even a clue what row racing is. Chances are they've heard of the Boston Marathon. The two great traditions. Now, as far as the Knicks go, just a quick recap with the Philadelphia 76ers series. It was a great series the way we thought it would be. It was interesting the way the Sixers ownership, they bought 2,000 tickets that they gave out for fans. But after the game, I was talking with Joe Santalaquita, a reporter from Philadelphia, and he told me something really, really interesting that's thought-provoking. He said outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia is not really a big sporting town, not as big as you think. And what got the discussion going, a great fighter, Jerome Boots Ennis is fighting in Philadelphia in July. And Joe and myself are talking, how many people are really going to show up in Philadelphia for their fight? A local Philadelphia guy fighting in Philadelphia, okay, like that. And and I think that happened even when they gave out the 2,000 seats. The Knicks had a lot of support in Philadelphia. And the Knicks are kind of on a magical run right now. But if they should lose to the Pacers and they don't go to the Eastern Finals, are you guys really going to say it was that good of a season?
Well, first, I kind of disagree with Joe about Philadelphia only being an Eagles town. They love their Flyers. The 76ers have a long tradition all the way back to Wilt Chamberlain, Dr. J, Moses Malone, all the way through. So, I mean, I disagree with them there. I don't think they're just the Philadelphia Eagles sports town. They love sports. They sell out their soccer team, the Union out there. So and as far as Boots Ennis goes, Boots Ennis really isn't on TV, isn't in the public enough for them to grab a hold of him. If he did, I think the Philadelphia fans would get behind him too. They love Joe Frazier. I mean, to me, that's
Joe Frazier didn't fight in Philadelphia much. He basically fought at Madison Square Garden.
But he's from Philadelphia, Jack, right?
No. The point is, no.
Weren't the Phillies? Weren't those games unbelievably? The stadium rocked last year in the playoffs, and everybody was big into the Phillies. It was a party scene at all those Philly games.
I agree.
Yeah, World Series and playoffs. Yeah, but if you look at the level of support the Sixers were given against the Knicks, no team is going to have their fan base come into New York and take over Madison Square Garden the way the Knicks fans took over the Wells Fargo Arena in Philadelphia. That's the point. If they're such great fans in Philadelphia, those Sixer fans, where were they?
They were prevented by their owner, Jack. The owner's the one that bought up the tickets. I mean, the owner's the one that want to make that money off the Knicks and charge them.
No, he bought the 2,000 tickets. He gave them away.
We went over this. The first time he bought them, and the Knicks, the first time he did it twice. The first time he did it when they had a lot of Knicks fans, especially courtside, because the 76er owner sold the tickets at Madison Square Garden prices, and the Knicks fans bought them. And the Philadelphia fans says, we're not paying
well,
that.
He didn't sell them to Knicks fans, Matt.
No, he put them on the market, Jack, and the Knicks fans bought them up.
And the Knicks fans bought them. The Sixer fans could have bought them.
They weren't gonna. Why would they buy the tickets at that price? That's ridiculous.
Oh, okay, that's the point I'm making. But the Knicks fans would, meaning they're more passionate about going to Philadelphia.
That doesn't mean they're more passionate, Jack. That means they're willing to pay the price that the 76er fans wouldn't. Pags went off about this. He says, why am I going to pay such a high price for these tickets when I'm normally paying this amount? That's something the owner did, Jack. And the reason why he did what he did the second time around is because he came under public pressure. Like, what are you doing? Why are you letting the Knicks fans come in like that? So that's why he redid what he did the first time. And I think Joe was talking from a boxing standpoint. That's what
No,
Joe.
he wasn't saying Philadelphia is a bad sports town.
He's an Eagle writer, and he's the commissioner of the Boxing Writers Association. So he's only talking about two sports. He's not talking like Doc said the Phillies. Like I said about the Flyers, they love their Flyers. They love their Phillies. They love the 76ers. They're a very loyal fan base. So what Joel's saying, I think, is totally wrong. That's just my opinion.
Jack, you brought up an interesting point that when you guys have been talking, I'm just making some quick notes. You mentioned the Kentucky Derby being the biggest event in horse racing. You talked about the Boston Marathon being the biggest event in marathoning. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with those things, but I was thinking about some of the other lesser sports and what people would consider to be the biggest event in those sports. Like I just came up with, tell me if you agree with these. Tennis, I would think they'd say Wimbledon, not the U.S. Open. Golf, I think they'd say the Masters.
Yeah.
Boxing, obviously, would be the heavyweight championship of the world if the belts were unified and all that kind of stuff, and people actually knew anything about the sport anymore. And the only one I couldn't come up with a true answer was, because I'm trying to think of lesser known sports, like football is going to be the Super Bowl, baseball be the World Series, obviously. Auto racing. What do you think is the bigger event, the Daytona 500 or the Indy 500?
Indy. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the bigger
I'm judging, guys. I'm not looking at this as a sports fan. I'm looking at it as what the average person.
I agree.
Not even a sports fan would they have heard of it. And I think the average person would have heard of the Indianapolis 500, but wouldn't have heard of the Daytona race.
Yeah, fair enough. So interesting sidebar there.
Yeah, and maybe the Grand Prix might be up there. I don't know.
Grand Prix, yeah. I don't even know where they have that, but yeah, I'm just thinking like names that people would know. If you said Wimbledon, they'd say, "Oh, that's a tennis match." They might not know anything about it, but who won it or anything. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah. Okay, keep going. Yeah.
I thought of doing a story standing on a street corner and taking a little survey. The first 100 people, I'll just ask them, "Who's the world heavyweight champion?"
And I guarantee you, 99 of them wouldn't know. Nobody knows.
About 90% wouldn't know, and about 20% would say Mike Tyson. Or something like that. I mean, the average person, not a boxing fan, is just walking by, flag them down.
Yes, nobody knows who the heavyweight champion boxing.
Who Jack Dempsey was. How many might actually know at this point?
So
yeah, the World Cup, that's good. Soccer, yeah,
Mario, the World Cup, very good. That's a good point. So let's get back to the basketball where we started in the off. Now we got an off season coming up. The Knicks and 76ers were very successful, but they still got to build on that team. Philadelphia is looking for a third shooter. The Knicks, of course, will be looking for a player who could do offense and defense. And the biggest name that's come up, and he's going to have a shot to opt out, is, let me get to his name here real quick, is not Butler, but Paul George is the one everybody's talking about that has a chance, because they're both these teams are going to be battling in the offseason for free agents. Butler was mentioned second. And the only problem with Butler is an alpha guy. He wants to come in and he wants to, he's a very big personality. And, Paul George is more laid back. He's more humble. He's more of a player that will adjust and kind of, he don't mind being second fiddle.
You're looking at it from the outside, Mac. There's no evidence that Butler's been a bad teammate throughout his career, but he does have there's no evidence. And I'll go to the contrary. He had a great relationship with Joel Embiid when Butler was on the Philadelphia 76ers. Embiid would be doing cartwheels if Butler came back. That was one of Embiid's best friends. But the difference between Butler and Paul George is Butler's on the contract to the Miami Heat for a couple of more years. I think it's 3 years, maybe 2.
And they don't think that
be a free agent.
They don't think that Miami's going to pay him what he wants. That's why they're saying that.
Right, exactly. So, but what do the Sixers have to give it. Let me just retract something. Joe Santoliquito didn't exactly say Philly wasn't a good sports town. He said the other teams don't even compare to the Sixers as far as I mean to the Eagles as far as fan support, not even close.
Yeah.
And people tend to make that comparison, and that's and they're wrong. It's not nearly as great.
Right.
But a lot of times you judge these personalities from the outside. That a guy's like a malcontent, he could cause trouble. You know what? And we don't know. You have to judge the type of teammate he's been over the years.
Well-
That's why Billy Martin had problems with Reggie Jackson. It was all about image. Reggie wasn't a bad teammate in Oakland. He fit in with a dysfunctional group, basically. But there was no evidence he was a bad teammate.
Well-
but of course, he said something dumb when he got to the Yankees.
Well, what I'm saying, Jack, what I'm saying, I'm not saying he's a bad teammate. I'm not saying that he's a bad guy. I'm saying on the court, he's the alpha. He's that way with Miami. He would be that way. Might hurt Maxey. Maxey is just coming into his own. So if he comes there and becomes alpha dog, Maxey may not thrive under that, is what they're worried about, is what the commentators are saying, that Maxey may take a back seat when it's really Maxey's team now. And
Maxey's not taking the team anywhere. Maxey is not a superstar. If he
Jack,
was, they would have gotten by the Knicks.
He played like a superstar, and not one guy's going to do that. So we had this debate before. I didn't say he's a superstar. I said he played like a superstar.
On Game 5. In Game 6.
No, not just in Game 5. No,
until the fourth period.
5, Jack. In the fourth quarter, he put up 17 points. He gave it his all. He's going to be a future superstar. To me,
he's been called a future superstar for years now.
He's been in the league for years, Jack. Wait. He's been in the league for 3 years. How you call him a future superstar for years? He just started playing full time. Doc Rivers didn't even hardly let him play. He came off the bench.
He had big minutes in the past.
How can you say that? How can you say that, Jack, when this is his first year he started? So, I don't know. I didn't
before this, Max.
Oh, my God.
Starting before this. It's Joel Embiid is the guy on the team on the Sixers.
We all know that. We all know that.
Things go around Joel Embiid. Maxey is
Embiid all but said that Maxey's a superstar. That's his opinion, not mine. I'm just telling you what he said.
The NBA has a lot of teams. Some teams in the NBA have players like Maxey. Very good players, potentially could be stars, potentially, but they're not taking their team to the next level. A case in point would be the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker. I mean, I think most people rate Devin Booker over Maxey, and Phoenix just got swept out of the playoffs. Combining Booker with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, they went nowhere. Okay? They have to make a switch. Jimmy Butler is a proven player who's taken teams to the finals a couple of times.
Who's what, 35 years? What is he, 31, 35 years old, something like that?
I mean, if the Sixers could somehow work out a deal to get Butler, they should jump on it. Maxey will adjust. It'll be a big three. Big threes could thrive together. There's no reason why they can't.
Well, one thing I agree with you is that the 76ers need another guy there. They do need 3 players. The Knicks just need somebody that could start, may not start, but still is good enough to start. And that's Paul George. So I would be interested to see if the Knicks do get Paul George. And hey, if the 76ers want Butler, go ahead and get him. Go ahead and get him. I'm all for that. So
it would improve the Sixers substantially. Butler never wanted to leave the Sixers, but they kind of made a decision. It came down to Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, and they decided they wanted to invest in Tobias Harris. That turned out to be a terrible mistake.
All right. So Doc's busy taking his notes. Doc, what do you think? What's your thoughts?
You're asking me about basketball. Yes, the Knicks won. That's about as far as I know.
That's right. And as I said, they're going on to play the Pacers now. The
Well,
Pacers
let me ask Doc this.
Good.
Can I ask him this? What would be bigger for New York City? A Yankee and Met championship or Knicks championship or the Rangers? Of all the teams, which would create the biggest buzz? And I don't do necessarily the comparison. Well, they're more baseball fans than basketball. I think you know what I'm saying. What would like hit home the hardest, bring the greatest joy?
I think it's the Yankees. I think they're the biggest team in the sport. I think baseball is still the biggest sport. I think basketball would be probably the Knicks have a more passionate fan base. I think that be a more energetic. But again, it's a smaller arena. If the Yankees played in Madison Square Garden, and you just had how many people fit in Madison Square Garden? 8,000, 12,000, something.
How about 20? Close
20? All right. So if you only had 20,000 people at a Yankee game, you'd have the 20,000 most passionate fans, right? Like, and if you could get that close to the players and sit courtside and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you'd see a different level of fan base than people sitting miles away in the upper deck in the last row in right field or whatever. I still think baseball would be the biggest, because I think more people can relate to baseball than basketball or hockey or football. But I think the Knicks have more of a passionate fan base probably than the Rangers. I think basketball is bigger than hockey. So does that answer the question? I think baseball first.
I think you're comparing sports. That wasn't my thing exactly. But let me say this. The Knicks prices maybe 3 times the amount that the Yankee prices are to get into a game, or double or whatever the amount. But it's a lot more expensive to get into a Knicks game. So if you double it, triple it, now you got 40 or 60,000. As far as revenue, the equivalent. But go ahead.
Jack, I want to try to cover all the sports here. I don't want to go down memory lane and compare sports. I want to try to get this whole thing in. And we got an hour. So they're going on to play the Pacers now. The interesting story about the Pacers, they got really 2 good guys off the bench. One being Obi Toppin, who was a former Knick. And I would imagine he wants to have at least one good game against them where he can show the Knicks they were wrong for getting rid of him and showing the Knicks fans that he could have been a great player. So I expect him to play maybe a little more against the Knicks than he did in the past series. So that'll be really interesting, I think. I think that he's probably still a lot of friends on the team. He's just fresh out of coming out of New York from last year. So I think he's going to, he's not revenge, but he's going to show what he has, that maybe the Knicks made a mistake letting him go. So that should be interesting too. Let's see. Dallas, Lukic plays through injury, scoring 25 of his 35 points in the fourth quarter. Kyrie Irving with a huge game yesterday. Kyrie, I got to give Kyrie credit. Kyrie has taken that secondary role and he's thrived. And, he had what did he have last night? He had over 30 points last night to win the game. So Kyrie really doing his thing. And Jack, a lot of people didn't think Kyrie could change. They really didn't. And, I really take my hat off to him.
No. He's been fine. It was a question of how much he'd buy into the Dallas Mavs, especially when he signed the long-term extension. And the reason for that was because we questioned how far the Mavericks could go, teaming up Kyrie with Luka. But buyer beware so far. Okay, they got by a couple of playoff series. Now it really gets tough. They play OKC. If they lose to OKC, it doesn't bode well for them going forward as far as their prospects of an NBA championship. If they beat OKC and they get to the Western Conference Finals, you could say they've had a nice run, okay? And who knows how far they can go. The Timberwolves play the Denver Nuggets, and those to me are the 2 best teams in the West, and one of them is going to eliminate the other. So that makes the path a little easier for, who wins between OKC and Dallas, to spring an upset, to go to the finals where anything could happen. But Kyrie stuck to basketball. Credit him, And that's the best way to turn your image around. Keep out of the news. Just play ball. Get along with your teammates. No controversy. And he could get back to square one.
I agree. Update on a story we talked about yesterday. Patrick Beverly. We were wondering who chucked the ball first. Well, it seems like he took the basketball and he first threw the ball at a woman and hit her off the head with a basketball. A guy next to her grabbed the ball. For some reason, gave it back to Patrick Beverly, and he threw and hit him in the head with the ball. So
No.
I think
I saw
that
the replay, Mac. The guy lobbed the ball easily to Patrick Beverly, a soft lob. Patrick Beverly caught it and fired it back hard.
What did I say different than that? What did I say different than that, Jack? I said he threw the ball back to Beverly.
The way you said he threw it. Okay, maybe I maybe I took it the but you made it sound, Mac, like he threw it at him. Maybe I misunderstood. I'll give you that one.
I said he threw the ball to Beverly, who turned around and threw the ball back at him and hit him in the head.
How did it sound to you, Doc?
I was ask it again, Jack.
Okay, Doc's taking a pass on this one very shrewdly.
Well, anyway, so the NBA will probably take some kind of action against him, whatever punishment that is, a fine or whatever. And I would expect those two people probably to sue him or sue the Bucks for that, because that's assault if you think about it. So I don't know what was wrong with Beverly, but maybe they said something to him. I don't know. But you still don't throw the ball at anybody.
You know what the problem is, Mac? You have to nip this type of behavior in the bud in the very beginning. Patrick Beverly is one of the cheap shot artists in the NBA. When he's mad at another player and the player's back is turned, he runs into the player and crashes into them. And he's been allowed to get away with this. I don't understand. And when the league disciplines a player, what do they do? A maximum of 3 games, maybe 1, 2, 3 games. You commit something like that, that's basically an assault. Put the guy out for 30 games. Believe me, word will get around the league. They'll go, man, oh man, I'm not getting involved with this stuff. I'm not going to miss half my season. And the discipline is so lax. I mean, we see that in all sports. If a pitcher is deliberately drilling a batter, he might get a starting pitcher a 5-game suspension. What's he going to do? Miss 1 start at most?
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of people say that the fans are just it's too close to the players. It's too close to the court. But that's the way it is. That's the way it is. So let's get into the MLB. I know Doc will be talking a little bit more now. Lindor comes through in a clutch with a walk-off single to secure a Mets victory. Jack, of course, has
well, they lost. They lost to Tampa Bay yesterday.
I'm talking about the day. I'm talking about the day before. He came through in the clutch with a base hit, a walk-off. Anyway, this goes to show, Jack, that contract was worth it. That 10-year contract that Lindor signed was worth it. There he comes through in the clutch.
Well, okay. Lindor's a wonderful player, by the way. I mean, He's a wonderful player. Don't get me wrong. But 10 years, $31 million a year. Okay. I mean, that's when Steve Cohen was kind of burning money. It wasn't the wisest contract to make, to put it, mildly. But listen, he's a good player. He's just not worth that money for that length of time. I think he has 7 years left at $31 million a year. Do you really think if he was a free agent, a team would give him 7 years now at $31 million a year? They
might.
There you go,
one
Doc.
of the things that happens with these contracts is the numbers sound big until they don't. So at the end of the year, and I don't want to make this all about the Yankees, so this isn't Yankees, but Juan Soto will be a free agent. All right. So how much is Juan Soto going to get? 50 million? 10 years? 500 million? Is he going to get 60 million? Is he going to get 49
million?
million?
They're not going to give him that much. Ohtani's deal was deferred, so it's deceiving. If Ohtani signed for a clean 70 million and he was getting 700 million and he was getting 70 million a year, that would reset the market. But I think the agents and players see, wow, Ohtani's money is deferred far into the future. He's only getting 2 million a year for now. So it's not nearly worth 70 million a year. I'm not sure what it's worth, but it's substantially.
Right, I think it's 46, right? He's getting 46.
And Ohtani is more marketable than any player out there, not even close. I mean, but Soto's a great player. The Yankees are going to have a predicament because his agent, Scott Boras, he's going to want opt-outs on top of it. And what do you do? It's a sensitive negotiation. The Yankees' best hope of signing Soto is if Soto wants to be a Yankee bad enough, where he's just tell Scott Boras, get me as close as you can to the highest total, and that's where I want to go. But will the Yankees be close to the top amount? That's the question.
I think, again, I don't want to make this about the Yankees. I'm talking in a bigger sense. If Juan Soto gets $45 million, let's just use that as a number. Lindor's making 31 million. It just doesn't. Well, when 31 million was like the top, you go, wow, that's a ton of money, 30 million a year. But if Soto's going to make 45 million or 47 million or 52 million, all of a sudden a $31 million contract for a shortstop that plays every single day and is a leader on his team doesn't sound so crazy. That's my point.
You're not looking at the back end of the contract. That's the problem. You can make an argument right now. It's not crazy what Lindor's getting, even though I think 31 million is still more than he should be getting. But I can understand the current logic. But when you look at the back end, these shortstops, they lose a certain flexibility, to play the position the way they played it early in their career. And
but I think everybody knows that when you sign a big time contract, does anybody think Aaron Judge is going to be great when he's 39?
But that's it. Aaron Judge gets a waiver in this sense. When you're a Yankee legend, okay, a potential legend, it's the trademark of having that player there, having him as a career Yankee. It's a lot different. I'll give you guys something food for thought. If, let's say 1959, the Yankees didn't get to the World Series. If I can tell you, I'll give you one more World Series. Let's say the Yankees are 1959 World Series champions, but you can't have Mickey Mantle on your team. What would you say? How can you not have Mickey Mantle? The identity with the Yankees is just as valuable as a championship. I could say, I'll give you a second championship, take away DiMaggio, a third one, take away Lou Gehrig. No, you don't do that.
I'm not sure. I'm not
either. But since you want to talk about the Yankees, we're going to play a game called Love Hate, whether you love or hate the teams or the players or whatever. So let's talk about Aaron Judge. Right now, Aaron Judge is only batting 200. His home run production isn't the greatest. So we've brought up this contract in the past, right? About the Aaron Judge contract, whether it was worth it or not. Me and Doc both think it was a fair deal, the first one. So if Aaron Judge continues with this bad, say he becomes another Stanton. Let's give him that. He becomes a Stanton, can hit 25 to 30 home runs a year. That's about 240. Is that contract that they gave him worth it?
Probably not.
From this point onwards, if he becomes another Stanton, no.
Okay.
It's not worth it.
Okay. All right. So
but we're 1 month, Mac. We're a little, basically a month into the season.
I agree. Yeah. I'm just saying that if that's what.
Yeah, but no. If he becomes another Stanton from this point on the rest of his career, no, it's not worth it what the Yankees gave him.
Okay.
All right. Now, again, I don't want to monopolize into the Yankees because you have a lot of things to cover. But the idea that Judge hasn't hit for only a month is a little bit of a misnomer. And I know everybody, and I talked about this on the Dr. Sem show, but I know everybody's down on batting average and there's all the advanced stats. And listen, I use them all the time. I'm not against advanced stats. But when Judge came back last year, he hit only 245. And now this year he's hitting only 200. And it's not just a month. You're talking about something like 92 games now, that his batting average over 92 games has been like 220. So
Yeah, but
it's not very good.
Doc,
You're more than half a season.
Doc, if yesterday's game, he made an outstanding play in center field, tracking a ball down. He gives you a lot on the defensive end. No one ever talks about that.
No, I think they do, and he played great right field. Now he's playing center field. Yeah, I'm just saying.
But that's invaluable. That doesn't show up in the box score.
Don't disagree.
Okay, so love or hate? Do you love the AL Central this year?
All right, Jack, you go first. I'm gonna look at the standings.
The Twins have won what, 11 games in a row?
Let me finish the question. Cleveland right now with the best record in the AL. KC and Detroit, if the playoffs happen, this of course it isn't, but if it did, they'd be in the wild card race. The end of the year, this is all going to change, folks. I mean, Detroit and Kansas City are probably going to be out of it, and Cleveland's record is not going to be the best in the AL. But if we were playing the playoffs today, that's the scenario. Love it or hate it, Jack.
Oh, well, you can't say that'll be the scenario. You have 4 teams that are bunched up so closely. By next week, it could be all juggled all over the place. You can't hold to it now. I love the AL Central so far. The Twins have won, 11 in a row. The Kansas City Royals are a team on the rise. You have to love Bobby Witt, their shortstop, and they have a potential Hall of Fame, I think, in my opinion, at least, in Salvador Perez. And the Guardians got off to their best start maybe ever, earlier this year. And the team that I picked to win it, the Tigers, in the mix. I mean, I love it, what's going on there, in the AL Central. I don't think they're patsies the way other people might perceive them to be. It's such a competitive race.
Okay. Doc?
Yeah, you got to love it when there are teams that are playing great baseball. See, you have to hate that the White Sox are 6-26. I mean, they're playing less than their winning percentage is less than Aaron Judge's batting average. 188. That's terrible.
There you
when
go.
you have
Aaron Judge.
when you have 4 guys, it is funny though. Like if you say something critical of Aaron Judge, people get all bent out of shape. Like, how do you can't?
They do.
And I made this point too. People, there are Yankee fans that are all over Juan Soto. He can't play defense and he doesn't run well. Why would you be all over this guy? He's the only guy hitting. But anyway, you got to love the fact that the American League Central, that 4 teams are playing over 500. These are 4 teams that everybody, as you said, Mac, usually considers patsies. They say they're just not good. And they're off to good starts. And listen, the idea of a sport, in baseball, they should just make it so the Yankees win every year. But all kidding aside, the idea of a sport is you want your teams and all across the sport to be good and competitive because that creates interest. And so far this year, the American League Central, they're creating a lot of interest because they're playing great baseball.
You don't know what players like. Sticking to the AL Central, the Tigers first baseman Torkelson, he hit like 31 homers last year, and he hasn't had a homer yet this year. He's young, a number 1 overall choice, in the draft. Do you get along, though, with a young player, because 5 weeks he's off to such a slow start?
I think it's a case-by-case basis, and I don't watch the Tigers enough to know if I would be concerned about him.
Listen, if the kid's working hard, he's trying to improve, he plays a good first base, as you said, Judge plays a good center field, and that, as you said, doesn't show up in a box score. Listen, I stay behind the kid until I can't stay behind him anymore, right? So that would be something I do. Do you love or hate? And I told you guys the Red Sox would be competitive this year. Do you love or hate the way the pitching rotation has come around for the Red Sox? Right now, they have 2 of the best pitchers you could say in the league, but in the AL. Cutter Crawford with a 1.56 ERA, and Tanner Houck has a 1.60 ERA. So not only the Red Sox can hit the ball, and they got a lot of young players, but they got 2 major pitching studs right now. So do you love it or do you hate it? We'll start with you, Doc.
Do I love the fact that the Red Sox are competitive as a Yankee fan?
Well, your father was a big
Oh, my
Red
dad's
Sox
the biggest
fan.
Red Sox fan in the
Yeah,
world.
so
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
So listen,
respect to him.
with respect to my dad, I'm happy when the Red Sox do well. With respect to the Yankees, I'd rather them be in last place, of course. But again, you have to love it. Just like the American League Central, people beat up on the Red Sox all year. I bet you, if you were to go back 6 weeks and look at everybody's predictions for the season, the one thing they would have all agreed on, virtually every predictor would have said, well, in the American League East, the Red Sox will be the last place team. I think to a human being, everybody said that. And it's nice when teams come together and they get things going. Now, again, this is something else we do in sports. When it's the guy we really root for and he's not doing well, we go, well, it's early. He's got time. He's got time. But when we want to make it into a story, we want it to seem like it's permanent. Like, oh, the Red Sox are going to be great all year. Well, if Judge has time to turn it around, the Red Sox do have time to, turn back into a pumpkin.
Well, that's exactly the point. There are 5 teams in the American League East. For the Red Sox to do well, let's say they come in 4th place out of 5. That means they have to beat one of the following 4 teams out. The Orioles, unlikely. The Yankees, we don't think so. The Blue Jays, who are expected to make a run. And the Rays, who've been to the playoffs the last 5 years. Every time we sleep on the Rays and they do better than we think. Why should this year necessarily be any different? Because the Rays get to the playoffs every year. So for the Red Sox to, let's say, finish 3rd, it's easy for us to say, well, they'll beat out the Blue Jays and the Rays. I'm not that confident about that. Maybe they will, but I'm not confident about it at all.
Well, the
Blue Jays,
the
Blue Jays to me, I'm sorry, Mac. The Blue Jays to me seem to me like a team that, for whatever reason, underperforms year in, year out. Vlad Guerrero, when you see him play, you think, how can this guy not have 5 billion home runs and is hitting 1,000? He's just such an imposing presence at the plate. And for whatever reason, he's underwhelming. His performance and his numbers, they just don't jump off the table or jump off the stat sheet and wow you. You say, like, what is going wrong? So I think the Blue Jays are one of those teams that looks good on paper, and for whatever reason, they just can't seem to ever put it together. So I could see the Red Sox, if they have a really special year, these young pitchers keep doing great, finishing ahead of them. And when there's a team that's in the playoffs every year, eventually they get to the point, especially if they don't spend money, like the Rays don't spend money, that the magic wears off. And this could be the year that happens too.
Yeah, and piggybacking that a little bit, last year is last year, this year is this year. That's the great thing about sports, right? I mean, any team can come up and surprise anyone, especially if there's chemistry on that team. And any team could lose that, especially if they're supposed to be better than they are, and they look in the mirror and they're not that good. So it's very early. This is all we're all guessing. I'm just, from being from this area, I love the Yankees. I put up with the Mets, and I understand the Red Sox. So, I love it when teams from this area do good, and it's competitive up here anyway. So let's flip to football. Michael Irvin gets let go from NFL Network. I personally now do not like Michael Irvin as a broadcaster. He's loud. He's obnoxious. He cuts the people off who are trying to make a point on the show, and he's very one-sided when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. And maybe that's why they hired him, because he is that way, but I guess the routine is done, and they cut him. And 4 other people, most notable Palmer, the former quarterback, is also out of there, and he's kind of boring. So anyway, the NFL Network, like the other ones, are starting to shake things up a little bit. Any comments?
Comment. I've said this in the past. These athletes who've been controversial, who've been less than ideal citizens, they always seem, when they retire, to get these broadcasting jobs. I mean, Michael Irvin was a troubled individual during his playing days, controversy even after he retired. And he's on the air. Keyshawn Johnson, who was a lousy teammate, a night guy when he played, he gets a broadcasting position. ESPN was having Patrick Beverly on for some special segments, before this latest incident. Pac-Man Jones, okay, who's been involved with turmoil off the field, he's on the Pat McAfee show, now, seeming to be like a bit of a regular, being tried out as one. I mean, we just see that all the time, and I'm kind of a little tired of it. Antonio Brown, we keep seeing his name in the news. The guy takes his shirt off and quits football during an NFL game and is doing jumping jacks with his shirt off. Now, if he has mental health issues, I'm very sympathetic, believe me. And if that's the case and he gets rehabilitated, I want him to get every opportunity he can. But he keeps saying these controversial things, putting other people down, being insulting. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in this position. And that's the case with, kind of Michael Irvin. He was a controversial guy, a lot of issues, and, but he would be getting these broadcasting jobs. Even Shannon Sharp, who I like a lot on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith. Shannon Sharp does an outstanding job. I love listening to him. He was the mouth that roared when he played. Okay? He really was, an overly loud guy, who would talk over people and he gets the position.
Yeah.
Well, they want ratings, right? So they're going to try to find personalities. And
right.
Unfortunately, a lot of times those personalities turn off the average viewer. Something else with the Cowboys, though, you made me think of, Mac. Jimmy Johnson, he's an analyst. Troy Aikman, he's an analyst. The other guy, the other quarterback,
Tony Romo,
he's an analyst. It seems like the
NFL,
the networks, Don Meredith, all those years ago. They seem to always want to get the Cowboy guys to do all these games and stuff like that, which again I think is short-sighted. I know the Cowboys are America's team and all that kind of stuff, but you'd think you'd want people who, I don't know, are more accessible to everyone, all the fans, than just Cowboy fans.
I love the way Doc took a dig at you, Mac, because us having Jim Jeffcoat form a Cowboy.
I didn't even think about
dig at you, Mac.
To me, I don't mind Tony Romo that much. I think he's a fun guy. Troy Aikman's a little boring, but whatever. He does a decent job too. Jimmy Johnson, I don't get the fit in there with Fox. How about them Cowboys? He's very emotional. I guess it kind of offsets the other guys, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that if there's another coach that retires, that he ends up losing his job there at Fox.
Well, Bill Powers at CBS,
that's
yeah.
Yeah. So, they want the newest guy coming out. That's, like Matt Ryan. So let's
Rex
talk a
Ryan,
little bit.
ESPN.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the Miami Dolphins and Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham, two former Giants. So we're represented in these two next topics here. So Miami signs Odell Beckham to a 1-year contract, $3 million. Now, when he was with the Ravens, I don't know. I don't know how much he didn't play that much. Let's put it this way. He really had a average year, right? He caught as much passes. I think it was 17, if I'm not mistaken, as much as maybe an average tight end catches during the year. He ended up getting like $16.2 million for that 1 year there. He totally fleeced the Ravens. Now Miami picks him up, and he'll be a third wheel to the other two great receivers there. But I still think it's a waste of time. He's going to get hurt again. He's not going to play. I just don't get it. If I'm the owner of Miami, but maybe he was in on it, I would sit down at GM, have a serious talk with him, with all the great wide receivers that they could have gotten the draft, or that they could pick up in free agency. There's still a few out there. They signed Odell Beckham way past his prime as far as, him being injured and stuff like that. I don't get the move.
There's no great receivers out there now,
There
Matt.
are a few,
Where you
Jack.
getting
There
this?
are a
There's
few.
none out there.
There are a few. McGee's Cincinnati receiver, T. Eakins, is still out there, unsigned. All right.
There's a cap. You can get anyone for if you're going to pay
And you
big
can-
money. It would be foolish.
And you
Odell
can
Beckham is going to be a third wheel. They're paying him small money. They're paying him backup money. And if one of the other Waddle or he'll get hurt, he's a great guy to bring in and give more responsibility.
I don't
to. He
think
hasn't
so, Jack. He's all Jack. He's all done. Beckham has been done.
Maybe
Beckham has been done. And as far as a contract goes, you can work a contract to anything you want. You can have it a signing bonus. There's 100 different ways they know how to work out contracts. You still got the former Cincinnati Bengal wide receiver. Right? The name doesn't come to me right now. He was a former 1,000-yard receiver.
John Ross. He was cut all over. He's not in Beckham.
But he was. He's better than Beckham. Oh, please. Beckham is
John
not
Ross.
good.
He got cut. He can't find a team. He's
Beckham-
been out of the league a couple of years.
Beckham is not a good receiver anymore, Jack. He's average at best.
Well, let me put it this way. When the Rams, he came in the same situation with the Rams 3 years ago and helped the Rams win a Super Bowl.
He made
OBJ caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl.
Then he got hurt, and then he gets promptly hurt right after that.
Chances are, but it's a low risk. If he gets hurt, he doesn't contribute. You're only paying him $3 million. You're not losing.
I don't see it. Not with
all right. So a short while ago, we were talking about Keyshawn Johnson, right? Being a me player. Hasn't that been one of the knocks on Odell Beckham, being a me player?
Yeah, kind of, yes, in a way. But the difference is with Keyshawn would always be putting down his fellow wide receiver, Wayne Corbett, on the Jets all the time. There was a jealousy and it was out in the open. And also Jim Jeffcoat, who's on this show, who was involved with the Cowboys, he speaks lowly about Keyshawn Johnson. He basically says he's an eye guy. So he gets information from the inside, what they tell him, coaches or the players. Yeah, it just
right. But
OBJ would have these fits on the sideline, immature fits, these like temper tantrums. But sometimes when you become an older player, you maybe don't perceive yourself as a star anymore. Sometimes you do. Maybe OBJ's crossed over to that level of maturity because he didn't have those fits with the Ravens last year. He was hurt a good part.
I was just going to say he didn't have a chance to have a fit. He was off the field.
Right now, aren't the Dolphins a team that seem to be a player or two away, and they had a tough finish to last year, and there's questions with the coach and the leadership on the team, and is that the type of guy you want to bring in to bring a team that seems like we're talking about the Blue Jays a minute ago to be underperforming? They have all this talent. People say this is the year for the Dolphins. This is the year for Tua. And then you bring in a guy who might be more of a distraction than a help.
No, I say no, Doc, because he's not going to come in as a leader. He's not going to influence other people over there. Tyreek Hill is more of a leader, and he's perceived as a little bit of a loose cannon, but he hasn't messed up the team chemistry the way Stephon Diggs reportedly did at Buffalo, where they wanted to move on from him. If OBJ wanted to come to the Jets, let's say, the Jets could get him. Aaron Rodgers is the leader. OBJ's not going to upset things in the locker room because this is Aaron Rodgers' group, okay? Right now, at least, as long as Aaron Rodgers can perform this season, he has control of the locker room. There could be a danger with certain teams where there's not any real leadership, and then a guy comes in and he could shake things up. But OBJ hasn't been known to cause turmoil in the locker room. Not to me. I mean, there's no evidence of that.
Right. But he was taking pictures or something before the playoff game all those years ago and was a distraction to the team. I'm just asking a question. I don't know enough about it.
So let's put OBJ in the backseat and talk about Saquon for right now. I found out something that I didn't know. I thought that the Giants had made Saquon some kind of offer before he went to Philadelphia, but Philadelphia outbid him. Comes to light from what I'm reading, Saquon was never offered a contract by the Giants. There was never any formal. There was talks, but there was never a contract put on the table for him to sign. And of course, Philadelphia gave him basically what he wanted, and he's happy he's going to Philadelphia. So, the Giant fans were kind of saying he was a traitor and that he turned down some kind of contract. He did not. So, any Giant fans out there, he did not do that. He's not a traitor. Philadelphia offered him a contract. The Giants didn't. And now I'm a little ticked off at the Giants GM and ownership right now.
Mac, and it's vague also. A player like Saquon Barkley, he can always be offered a contract if he's willing to play for whatever they're going to give him. Obviously, the Giants could say, oh, yeah, we would have offered him a contract for sure. Yeah, a very low contract, for him to come back. They're not going to put a dollar amount on it. And sometimes it's not logical for a guy to come back. Like even Jim Jeffcoat on our show, he played for the Cowboys for the first 12 years of his career, and the Buffalo Bills his last 3. And I remember asking him on the show, well, if the Cowboys, I'm sure they could have offered you something. They still would have wanted to keep you. He said, yeah, but it wouldn't have been logical. The amount of money would have been so low in comparison to what he would have gotten with Buffalo. But the Cowboys could always say, oh, we wanted Jim to stay. We would have given him a contract. But,
Yeah, I agree with that. So we're getting near the top of the hour. A little boxing with Jack here.
I got to ask Doc one thing quickly, just to clear the air with you, Mac. I accused you, and maybe falsely so, of being a big Pittsburgh Pirate boost in the beginning of the year, say they'd go for you. And you told me twice on the show, it's not me, it's Doc, the one who is the big Pirate booster. Doc, were you the one who predicted big things for
I didn't make any predictions this
for
year.
the Pirates this year?
No.
Well, what the
Mac,
question was,
blame you.
What the question was who did you think, and I don't know if it was this year or last year, but who do you think would have a shot at maybe being a surprise team? I know I picked Arizona. I'm not sure who Jack picked, but I know Doc said Doc said he thought the Pittsburgh Pirates would be a surprise team. Not that they would be going all the way, but that they would be a surprise.
Thank you, Mac. We're going to hold Doc to this at the end of the year. We're going to make him accountable for this.
Okay.
Wait. I never made a prediction this year. I made no predictions.
I believe
the only connection I had with the Pirates was I wore a Pirates jersey and a Pirates hat.
That's when he
was running the Pittsburgh Marathon. It was
he made that prediction. It
was a Dave Parker jersey, just because he was my favorite player in 1979.
Mac. You're right. I apologize.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
The one. Okay.
Thank you. He was influenced by the shirt, but anyway,
I guess so. I don't know what you're talking
about.
A
little boxing with Jack Hirsch. That we have Canelo. I don't know this guy he's fighting. His name
Jaime
again,
Jack. Tonight Canelo Alvarez against Jaime Munguia. Munguia is an unbeaten Mexican. I like Canelo to win by a wide decision. Something like 9 rounds to 3. Munguia is a good, solid fighter, but Canelo's this, level above. Unless Canelo's really slipped a lot, Munguia is not going to beat him. But what's going on that's of more interest is what between Munguia's promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, and Canelo Alvarez. De La Hoya's group, Golden Boy Promotions, used to promote Canelo. They don't anymore. They had a feud. There's been a lot of bad blood. De La Hoya at the press conference is putting Canelo down for having no respect for his company. Canelo is claiming De La Hoya didn't give the fighters all the money that was due them. Canelo had tested positive for substance abuse, but the talk was it was tainted meat in Mexico that caused it. So De La Hoya has a T-shirt with a steak on it, saying something like "enjoy your meat" or something to that effect. And he brings it up at the press conference. You failed 2 drug tests, and it's ugly between the two. So that's more of a news. Canelo and De La Hoya. Canelo and Munguia, who's a fellow Mexican, they get along. They're friendly. It's sporting, but it's really bad blood between De La Hoya and Canelo.
Well, maybe he'll fight an exhibition fight with De La Hoya. Who knows down the road?
It won't be an exhibition, believe me.
Okay. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Rick, Mario, glad you came aboard and made some comments. Thank you all for watching now and watching later, at least on Twitter. Again, Doc, great job. I loved all your input on the NBA. And Jack, of course, love having you on as my co-host almost every day. Folks, have a great day. Be prepared tomorrow for the Sunday big football show and more. And of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, Jack and Frank will be doing Glove Fist at 7 p.m. Eastern, and Doc and EJ will be doing Start Spreading the News at 9 p.m. Eastern. So you all have a good day. Stay tuned for Roku, all day sports every day. Have a good one, folks.